Joining us now to weigh in, he's the author of the book, Rights and Freedoms in Peril, and he's the boss man, the president over at Judicial Watch. Tom Fitton, back on the program. So, Tom, nice to see you, by the way. It's been too long.
Yeah, good to be with you, Dan.
Pam said we were going to get it. Pam, I'll just say it, screwed the pooch, acted like it was a big deal with those binders. I called about a dozen of those influencers that were there that day, and they were all like, yeah, we had no idea what was happening. That was not a good look. Here we are 2 months later, and I haven't seen phase 2, phase 3, phase nothing. And so thank you for pushing them. Talk about the lawsuit and why you went to this extreme.
Well, we saw that interesting public leak of the records and the reaction and the concern about what was there and what was not there. So we said, let's just ask for all the records. And separately, you know, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel talked about how some FBI guys may have obstructed the release of information. So we asked for records from them directly, both Mr. Patel and the Attorney General, about any issues related to the release of these records, so we can figure out what went on there in terms of possible obstruction by the deep state. But we've got the proverbial hand to the face, and we wanted all the Epstein records. You know, just give them to us.
Yeah.
And the process under FOIA, which is what I think they should better appreciate, is that you release the records. It requires you to tell people what you're withholding and why. Where did you look for them? You know, the basics that people want, the questions that people want answered about the Epstein. And this is not just about the list. I'm interested in how the guy died. I'm interested in lots of other things surrounding the handling of this case.
Right.
And let's not just focus on a client list, which may or may not be interesting, but the whole circumstance of how he got away with what he got away with. And remember, when he was in prison, federal prison, he was the most famous prisoner there at the time, and he died. Right. And the circumstances of his death, there are still legitimate questions about, at least in my view.
Oh, yeah. Can we go over them real quick? I'll put the quick cliff notes. The 2 guards for his wing, one of them was asleep, one of them was at lunch. The cameras in his sector stopped working mysteriously. He had a roommate, but they kicked the roommate out, and he was all by himself. They removed shoelaces and all that stuff so people don't commit suicide, but he did it with bed sheets. What else? Oh, yeah, that famous forensic guy, I forget his name, you probably remember, did a separate look at the autopsy and said, no, those marks are not from a bed sheet, but more like a piece of wire, like you're strangled.
Consistent with someone strangling you, the damage.
Yeah. Did I hit most of those cliff notes? Is that about right?
Yeah, and then there may be others. And, you know, the other is they didn't give us the documents, right? So when you ask for the documents and you don't get them, and it's an unlawful holding of documents, we're right to ask questions. What are they hiding? And I think that the Attorney General and Kash should get on the ball and get these records out there. I mean, we still haven't gotten the records.
I know. Where's phase 2? And look, I know Kash personally. I don't know Pam. I like the guy. I trust the guy. And I don't know if they're getting pushback and they're not getting what they're asking for from their subordinates, because we know how the deep state acts. And I highly doubt that folks at the AG's office that just worked for the last, I mean, the folks that were in there under Holder, the folks that were in there during Biden's tenure, and I just don't feel like there are probably a lot of people on Team Trump within the FBI and the AG that want to actually do what their bosses, Kash and Pam, are telling them to do. Do you think that might be some of the factor on the rollout of this info, or no?
Yeah, I think they need to focus on these issues that put them in the positions they're in. And I think they're focused on other issues that are also important. But people are very concerned about the Epstein matter because it reflects poorly and kind of echoes the concerns about the way people of power are treated here in Washington, D.C. And, you know, taking a step beyond this, they need also, in my view, to focus on the fact that the Justice Department and the FBI spent the entire last 4 years trying to jail President Trump and all sorts of other innocent Americans whose only crime it was being on the wrong side of the political divide and daring to question an election. I haven't seen much action there as well. And I tell you, if the FBI and the Justice Department are not cleaned up, or frankly have their wings clipped to a significant degree, and I mean the FBI should be treated like in my view, USAID, President Trump is going to be in jail or threatened with jail again the minute he leaves office, if not before.
That's a good point. Yeah, because Merrick Garland and again, when Holder was in under Obama, 8 years there, you've got some deep-seated, probably agents of the FBI, investigators at DOJ that are corrupt as hell, and they will do the deep state's bidding. I agree with you, Tom. They've got to release this stuff. The book is Rights and Freedoms in Peril, Investigation Report on the Left's Attack on America by Tom Fitton, the president at Judicial Watch. I hope the AG complies and gets those files out to the American people. Tom, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yep.